is it that you first fall in love with wrestling?
Without giving too much away, I'm old enough to legitimately remember watching WrestleMania 1 when it was televised. So I knew about wrestling and I'd seen bits and pieces on Wide World of Sports, on Channel 9 occasionally they'd show matches and that, and I'm like, what is this thing? This is amazing. My dad and my background, my heritage is Italian background, so my dad was a wrestling fan, that heritage, but his dad, my grandfather, was a huge wrestling fan back in the day, and so a lot of the stuff that come through Australia, so used to watch all the championship wrestling out of Melbourne and all that, and was a huge thing. And back in the day where didn't have a concept that it wasn't, there wasn't an element of staged activity of that, so fully bought everything. He unfortunately died when I was quite young, so I would have loved to have seen him now get to see me do that. I think would have been amazing. But so from a very young age, I knew about it, and then WrestleMania 1 just cemented that. Like, that was it. There was this thing. There was this amazing event. That what the hell is going on here? And these huge guys are in there, and they're attacking each other and beating each other, and loved it. Just bought it, got it. Was hook, line, and sinker from the moment. So. As I said, I can literally trace it back to WrestleMania 1. Probably slightly before that, but I can say WrestleMania 1 is what hooked me.
That's pretty incredible.
Yeah, it's great.
And so when is it that you decided that you, instead of just watching, you're like, you know what? I can do that.
Oh, that's WrestleMania 1.
Right. Then you were like, this is what I'm doing with my life.
Oh, look, I figured, if there's a way that I can somehow be involved in that, that's what I want to do.
Yep.
The downside to that is, at the time within Australia, there wasn't a huge scene, and it was certainly underground, and it certainly didn't have the exposure that it does today. So I didn't come across or have the opportunity to fall into a situation where I could train or anything like that for very, very much later, many years later. But in saying that, I went to the States as a child. I was about 12, maybe 13. And even there, I actually went to my very first live WWF event over there. And I actually went back about a month ago and found the card.
Oh, wow.
I went back and went all the way back and found Nassau Coliseum in New York. Just the
what
name
a place
of it.
to go.
Exactly, just the name of it, Nassau Coliseum. Went back, found the legitimate card, and it's like, I think, January of 89. And yeah, the card's amazing. Like, it was even better than I remember in my head. I knew a couple of guys, and I went back and had a look at the card, and there's the Tito Santana's on there, and there's a few others, and then you get down the card. I think Morocco was on there, but it gets better because Jake Roberts was on there. The Ultimate Warrior, who was fighting as the Dingo Warrior at that time before he became the Ultimate Warrior, was on the card. And the best of all, which is my trump card for pretty much anyone, was Andre. I actually literally saw Andre live. And that was the one where I knew I did, and I knew it over the years.
There's no way you could forget.
I knew I had, but over the years, I'm going, have I really? Did I actually, or am I wishing and imagining I had? And I went back and found the card. No, Andre was the main. But and I do disrespect because there's 4 or 5 other names on there that I looked at the card and went, oh well, I didn't realise they were on there. I forgot they were on there, but. Yeah, it's amazing. So
wow.
Yeah, so by then I'm in. I'm like absolutely, mate. If I would have happily moved, like not ever come back to Australia, lived in the States and started wrestling there. And I have no doubt, had I been born over there or somewhere like that, Canada even, I would have done American football and I would have done hockey and all that stuff, and I would have trained in wrestling without a doubt. It's the grappling aspect is something from all the sort of fighting skills. A lot of MMA stuff, but. From striking to martial arts and that, the grappling's always been something that I've loved, and that's transferred into that that performance aspect or theatric aspect of the wrestling side that goes with that as well. Loved it. So I was hooked, line, and sinker then, and certainly would have trained from a much younger age had I had the opportunity. I
know off air you mentioned that Scott Hall was one of your big influences.
Oh, absolutely.
Who are the guys that, obviously, as you get, like me, you watch it as a kid, and as a kid it's very different to when you become a teenager and you start going, I want to be like for me it was always like, I want to be like Michaels.
Look, for me, I remember WrestleMania 1, and there's a few things I remember that Mr. T, who even at that age realised wasn't part of the scene. Like, he got it, he wasn't part of it. But there's obviously Hulk Hogan, who is this enigmatic, just idolised, larger-than-life, godlike figure, which was exactly how he was sold, and exactly how we all ate him up. And he always held that place for me, but he was never really my favourite, and it probably speaks a lot about me now. Probably a year or a couple of years into then starting to follow wrestling more closely, Hogan wasn't who I wanted to be, and and I was happy to see everyone go up against Hogan to beat him, which is exactly what they wanted you to feel anyway.
Exactly.
They wanted that golden boy image, but he was not my man. You know, I remember from WrestleMania 1, I loved Roddy because the attitude and just the hard-nosed edge. But for me, was Paul Orndorff. At WrestleMania 1, Paul Orndorff. Like, look, the guy was built like a machine. Like, and I actually went back the other day, and I was actually watching Roddy Piper's DVD the other day, and it's got the WrestleMania 1 match on there, and I watched it again, and I remember him saying it, but really early on, Jesse Ventura's commentating it, and as Paul Orndorff takes his robe off, and that robe was amazing. I would, the red robe and then the blue one, Will the Spark, but the red robe, I would have one of those in a heartbeat. Amazing. Jesse goes, he's built like a Greek god, and he literally was. And Paul Orndorff for me was amazing. And then you actually watch him in some of his matches, and you watch the way he can actually bump as well. For a guy that built like that, was not a small guy, was a massive, thick set guy. Could move, could bump. Probably the only downside to him is probably wasn't the greatest talker on a microphone. Got around that, however, you know, and had someone like Roddy do a lot of that in that sense when he used to work with that as well. But I think what sealed it for me with Paul Orndorff, and I'll get to some other influences later, but I remember, and it ties in with Jake Roberts, who was another massive influence, and I'll get to that in a second as well.
That's right, take your time.
Watching Superstars 2 or 3 years after that, and it was when obviously, you know, end of WrestleMania 1, you know, there's the whole side where Orton hits Orndorff with the cast, Orndorff wakes up, what the hell's going on? But that's the face turn for Orton to come across with Hogan. Great angle works on. And then you get down the track and Orndorff turns on Hogan. Yep. Sealed it for me. Orndorff is the best thing ever. Turned on Hogan. Amazing. Yep. I remember watching Superstars one night where it happens. He turns on Hogan. Bang. Pile drives him. And that was the other thing. Paul Orndorff's pile driver is the best at pile driver I've ever seen, bar none. Not taking anything away from Zack Sabbath's pile driver because that's an amazing pile driver as well. But that was always going to be my finishing move. Yep. Like, just after Paul Orndorff. I'm doing the pile driver, I'm doing it like Paul Orndorff because that is just amazing. Pile drives Hogan, middle of the ring, and I'm like, yes, as a kid, I'm up screaming at the TV, it's amazing. And the best thing I remember about that Superstars, is it cuts away to backstage, and it's an interview with Jake Roberts and Mean Gene. And Mean Gene's like, I can't believe what we just saw, brother. And Jake, as cool as anything, just goes, what you just saw was a man who's happy to take his opportunities when they come, or something along those lines. I'm like, and that sold Jake to me as well. Like, I already loved Jake, and that enigmatic, cool, just deliberate sort of delivery of everything. But just straight up, like, heel promo on the back of something that wasn't even his angle. Exactly, yeah. And just heel on heel, and I'm like, oh, so amazing. So I remember that distinctly. So Orndorff, absolutely, I always loved him. You know, beyond that, Bret Hart was a huge influence on me. You know, Bret came up and he was a guy that I could relate to. I was never going to be 6'6", 6'7" like a Hogan, but I could be 6 foot like Bret Hart. You know, I could be 220, 230 pounds like a Bret Hart. I could do that. That's legitimate. And it was all about technique, and it was all about execution and all that stuff, which is right up my alley. It's everything I do, very strategic, very deliberate. So I'm like, huge influence. I guess the style of wrestling, and you know, they talk about it, and I guess it's an angle thing, but with Hart, there's no wasted motion. You know, everything's deliberate to move to the next thing. If you watch me in the ring, I'm exactly the same. Mm-hmm. As I've got older, it's because I'm lazy and I don't want to have to do too much. However, it's very deliberate and it's very precise and exact for a reason. There's a purpose behind the whole delivery of it. So Bret Hart, huge influence. Jake Roberts, absolutely, because... And I'll probably run through a million of them because there's bits that I have watched and I'll say stolen if you like, or emulated, mimicked, paraphrased, liberated. Yeah, I don't mind that. Yeah, emancipated, whatever.
Yeah, there we go. Yeah.
You know, Jake Roberts, so much of the character aspect and the delivery in a promo. And if you watch my promos, one thing you'll work out is, and Jake says it as part of his character, but it's legit. It's a shoot almost. You know. He's not a man that has to yell. He doesn't have to raise his voice. He doesn't have to scream, because what he says is worth listening to. And because he doesn't do that and he keeps it and he's very exact, you make sure you pay attention to every really word he says.
He'll wait for the crowd. I've seen you do that multiple times where the crowd's gone off and it's just, are you done?
Yeah.
That was still my favourite line of yours in a promo ever has still been, are you done? No, you were done. That was a rhetorical question. Shut up. And then kept going. But you didn't, like I say, you didn't raise your voice. You just...
And that's the thing. And that I've always... And that was the one thing, especially growing up in the 80s, everything is such a huge, bombastic, aggressive, yelling promo, and that's great. And don't get me wrong, watching Flair do his NWA promos is amazing. Piper just on the drop of a hat just fires up. Amazing anger and amazing fire, and it's hugely great for their characters. But the delivery from Jake outshines them all because he doesn't have to. It's just real. Here it is. Yeah, exactly. And I took that on. So that, and to be fair, there's probably a lot of stuff from Jake that I've stolen. I mean, you have a look at my finisher, the flatliner, which is a modified rip-off of a DDT, if you like. Mm-hmm. You think about it, it's the same motion. But if you watch the way that 9 times out of 10 I'll get into my finisher, it's an arm wringer wind-up. Now, if you ever look at Jake, he does the arm wringer wind-up into a short clothesline. Mm-hmm. I don't do the left arm short clothesline. Instead, I use that to hook into my flatline. So I've basically stolen his setup and his finisher, merged them into my own version, which is how I do mine. Yep. So it's little things like that, and that's what I say for me. It's paying tribute to those guys, and I haven't done one in RCW, and I'll do them occasionally, but arm drags. Like, I love arm drags, and Ricky Steamboat is the only person that's the name. It's the only name you can ever talk about when you talk about an arm drag. He had the best arm drag in the world, and I love that. And for that, as I said, I'll take stuff from everyone. I love arm drags, and if I do them, they've got to be big and they've got to be huge, and it's a throwback to honouring Rick Steamboat. So there's stuff like that. There's probably slightly left of field. Stuff like Dusty Rhodes, and probably. Dusty's ability was not a massively great athlete, although in saying that, cardiovascularly, you wouldn't think the guy could go forever and ever.
Oh yeah, it was amazing. It's like Owens though. Owens is the same thing where you just go, how the fuck are you moving 30 minutes in? This is unreal.
But Dusty's ability was hooking that audience with emotion and connecting in that feeling and having fun with himself at the same time. I mean, look, halfway through a match, he'll fire up and start throwing those bionic elbows. Now they are hilariously amazing as well as tactically smart at the same time, but he's having fun with them, and a guy that size shaking his hips and his ass and stuff, and crowd loves it. So it's picking up from that, going right, so there's a part where you can have fun with that works with that, no dramas. Flair, for example, is just his smarts and his in-ring ability and his ability to again connect to that audience and he said it himself, and he's true, to work heel or face on the drop of a hat can change your crowd, heel or face, anytime, it doesn't matter. So watching that, watching a big change for me in how wrestling goes was watching, obviously it was Flair and Steamboat had the match, Flair wins the title back, Funk polarised him through the table on the outside. Mm-hmm. And as I say, it's really probably the first hardcore spot ever done.
Is that the plastic bag feud?
I reckon, because that was the next match, was Flair Funk.
That's right, yeah.
Flair was the heel with Steamboat. In a heartbeat, Funk turned him face in that one moment. Yep. He comes out with this amazingly broken neck almost, like selling this neck, and the whole way through does nothing but yell and scream and complain about his neck, and yet still beats Funk. And just their work in that, both of them, was just amazing. So there's stuff like that. I was a huge... I liked aspects, and I liked different things about guys which were a little bit obscure. Really enjoyed the Great Muta in WCW, and that was because simply, as small as it was, that whip and then that round off back handspring elbow, it just wasn't done.
No.
Stuff like that was amazing, and his ability throwing that elbow that he does in, and it's just that wind up which just whips around, bang. Like, I was never going to steal it because I could never master it. I tried, could never master it, but it was just amazing. Loved it. And his few matches he had with Sting at the time.
Yep.
Babyface Sting, blonde hair, whatever. And they had a couple of matches, and Dusty booked it clearly. One of the best finishes ever, which I've since stolen, is Sting, back suplex, Muta, holds it, they're both bridged. Muta gets his shoulder up, Sting's pinned himself, Muta gets the TV title at the time. Like, steals the belt off, which leads into Sting having to win it back at the next show. Like, just stuff like that. It was amazing, and that's where I've always tried to be really clever in what I do in the ring. I don't want it to be just normal or just whatever or run of the mill. There's got to be something that's clever about it.
Yeah.
So there's stuff like that I've stolen. So watching the 4 Horsemen, Tully Blanchard for mine was amazing in the ring. For a smaller guy again to have the way he moves and works, and his mind around the business was amazing.
Oh yeah, Tully had a brain.
Oh, Tully was awesome. I love Tully. And you know, and the other side to that is, you know, you start looking at understanding how the dynamic works of a team. For example, him and Arn. You look at that from a team perspective, amazing. Conversely to that, you had the Road Warriors, Hawk and Animal. You know, just were this huge brutish team that you just couldn't not enjoy their work or love or get behind or want to win. You know, and then I guess moving the next phase of that was in the Steiner brothers when they first
That's exactly
came
what I was
in,
going to say. Was
yeah.
the Steiner brothers were just the evolution of the
Yeah, absolutely. You know, it was great. So they definitely had a lot, and probably to see a guy like Scott Steiner who could move and do something like the Frankensteiner, for example, was just ridiculous.
So snappy.
Like,
boom! You'd be like, what just happened?
Shouldn't be able to be done physically. No. The evolution then, of course, was Shawn Michaels coming out, you know, and then got to see Shawn and Scott Hall Razor at the time, you know, for the IC belt. We talked about, I was talking earlier about the ladder match. Those for their day, you know, you watch those ladder matches, and compared with the sheer anarchy and craziness of what guys will do themselves these days, they are amazing matches for what they are. And just to see a guy, Scott Hall, size 60s, bumping off the top of the ladder, and just how well he took those falls and everything, and how much he sells and all that was just amazing. Love his work, love Scott Hall to death. Conversely, like Shawn Michaels, amazing. I love him, as I said earlier. If you've ever been in the business, you wanted to be Shawn Michaels.
Exactly,
the guy was so good, like just athletically what he could do for the longevity he's done it, but his ability to sell, his ability to understand how the crowd works and what makes him tick, and just again heel or face, you know,
and in a heartbeat too.
You know, as the Heartbreak Kid, as when he first did that as the heel gimmick, was amazing. You know, you talk about it. Everyone remembers putting Marty Jannetty
through the window.
On
I think it may be one of the top 2 or 3 wrestling moments.
Oh, absolutely. You know, it's amazing. I mean, that snooker with the coconut on Piper's Pit.
The coconut.
Stuff like that, you know, it's amazing. You can still talk about it 10, 15, 20, 25 years later as defining moments. So, you know, Shawn puts Marty through there. Shawn goes off on his run. Amazing, you know, just amazing. You see him evolve into what he did. It was just, you know, he's up there with the best, like especially in this era, like one of the best. And you see it even to the point where, you know, a few years ago when he has that match with Hogan.
I was going to bring that one up.
You know, he has a match with Hogan.
The sarcastic wrestling match, I've heard it called.
But it was brilliant.
Oh.
You know, everyone knew what it was, but it was brilliant because you looked at it and went, he's wrestling who he knows is the legend idol man, and he is at his age and doesn't need to at all, is going to sell his ass off for him, and does on everything.
My favourite is the punch where he hits the mat, stands up, falls out the ring, hits ringside, rolls up the ramp, stands up, then does a face flop.
Yeah.
But he's literally, you just sit there, it's like...
Oh, when he's in the corner, he can kick, and he's you know, so like you look at that and you go, it is. You look and go, it's the most sarcastic match ever. But at the same time, you're going, that is just.
But you can't. It's not bad. It's amazing.
Yeah, it's amazing, and it's amazing because you go, A, his athleticism at his age is still doing it. B, his desire and willingness to show that, you know, that tribute to Hogan, if you like. It just so much of that is the respect aspect of it is awesome. So. You know, there's that. I think probably, you know, from there is probably where I guess what I draw from probably comes to a bit of an end around that era.
Yep.
And I say that with no disrespect to the guys today, because, you know, I think Randy Orton is an amazing wrestler, an amazing athlete, just not my style, and something that I never grabbed. You know, I think Triple H as well is, over the years, I was never a huge Triple H fan. I look back across his DVDs and stuff, and the amount of stuff I've seen him in and actually enjoyed, I realised this guy is superb what he does. You know, had a shitty run to get to where he was in regard to backstage stuff and you know, the politics and all that stuff, and people think maybe he's privileged and whatever, and all the blah blah blah. Couldn't care less, because his in-ring work over time speaks for itself, and his longevity of it is just amazing. So. You know, in that sense, to say, probably for me. Oh, and look, sorry, one I can't believe I completely forgot is Austin. You know, is Austin is a huge thing. Mm-hmm. Now, in saying that, let me put a caveat in: it's not Stone Cold Steve Austin.
Stunning. It's
Stunning Steve Austin. For me, love that character. Love Stunning, and as much as I love Stone Cold, and the Stone Cold character is just out there, because it redefined the whole.
It was the exact epitome of right place, right time.
Oh, absolutely, you know, and that
exact counterculture of the world.
Exactly right. That's spot on. The counterculture that you know our world was going through is perfect for that. And you know, he was good enough and smart enough to capitalise on that at the time with the character, and I think good on him. For me, his work as Stunning Steve was just outstanding, and it was really interesting to see, if you go back and watch him actually wrestle. Because when he became Stone Cold, he didn't have to wrestle anymore. Yeah, and that's smart. Well, why would you? Don't do anything you don't have to do.
Well, so he's playing the everyman character, and most everyman can't wrestle. They can get in a group fight.
Exactly right. Exactly. So, it's Stunning Steve. I mean, I used to, and this goes back again how old I am. I used to do tape trading. I had a mate of mine who we grew up with, and we were both wrestling fans, and he had a connection through Melbourne who would tape trade, and used to get a lot of tapes direct from the States, and they'd be dubbed off, and it was, I actually think it's almost endearing and charming these days. I've got a lot of them still, but they're tapes which were dubbed direct from NTSC to POWER. So you've got all the tracking, and the colours go off, pinky blue occasionally and stuff. And I love it. I think that adds to it, to be honest. And it adds to the fact that I know that's where I started and how much I went to get these things. I mean, because I bought every wrestling magazine every month that would come out. And there was the 3 that came out, Pro Wrestling Illustrated, The Wrestler, and Inside Wrestling. Like, all 3 of them would get them every month and read up. And that's how I knew there was more than WWF. Yep. You know, so that's where, who's this Flair guy? Who's this other? What's all this about? And then I got to understand there's different federations and promotions and stuff. So anyway, so tape trading. So on the back of these, there's a couple of them. There was some. I used to see a lot of the Clash of the Champions tapes and stuff like that, and their main promotion, Starcades. And I actually got back home somewhere. I've still got Starcade 86 and 87 on VHS. The Crockett Cup 85, 86 on VHS. Yeah. So yeah, some amazing stuff back there. So I mean, you're talking about Dr. Death and Bam Bam Gordy and stuff like that, like amazing stuff. So anyway, so on the end of one of these tapes, it's like a house show, almost like a studio type film thing, and there is Barry Windham, Stunning Steve, 2 out of 3 falls for the TV title, and Austin's the champion at the time. Barry Windham himself is just amazing for his size and what he could do as well, and his brain was just outstanding. And yeah, just watching that match, watching Steve actually wrestle, and Barry obviously be able to go as well, was just amazing. So yeah, there's a couple of those as well. On the back of that as well, there's another one I've just thought of put my head in, Kurt Hennig. And if you've watched me wrestle over the years, you'll know I will quite often snap Mare back over and do the head snap. It is Kurt Hennig to a T. Like, it is absolutely him. It is definitely a tribute to him. I think he was superbly amazing. Like, just so much of what he did was just so clever and so well thought out, and he could sell, and everything he did for his size was just outstanding. I was lucky enough to actually see him wrestle live too. So yeah, so these tapes are amazing. At the end of, I think I had Rumble 93 on there, and I got it before it was released in Australia, and on the end of it, it is a house show type thing. It's a little studio thing, and it's Flair and Hennig. Loser leaves town.
Oh, whoa!
And that's how Flair leaves to go back to NWA, WCW.
Yeah.
So it's that match. But yeah, so I had that. So stuff like that is
amazing.
Yeah. So I mean, that's a my thing. I'll tell you one of the biggest things that I still need to get my tape back. And if you ever happen to watch this and you know who you are that's got this tape, you said you've lost it, and I believe you actually have lost it. However, you need to keep looking for it. It was a compilation tape of a USWA 89 best of, and the tape's like 3.5 hours long, and it's matches, but it's studio weekly show, and so much of the promo stuff and so much of the stuff that leads up to matches and all that is amazing. The angles, the way it's delivered, all that stuff. I mean, it's Mid-South, so it's Jerry Lawler's Federation, it's Memphis, but their delivery, their way that they work a crowd in there is just stupendous. So, you know, obviously your Lawler, Bill Dundee's, Dutch Mantels, just so many guys that run through that promotion at the time. It is amazing, outstanding. There's one of the very first matches is Lawler and Jarrett versus the Moondogs.
Oh,
Falls Count Anywhere. And they literally go through this entire building into the canteen concession stand. There's bins flying everywhere, throwing the walls. This is before you had hardcore matches like that.
And
this
was the king of stipulations. If he said something was going to happen, it wasn't just going to happen, it was going to...
Oh, it was huge. And they go all through this arena, and the Moondogs were just like Terminator. You couldn't stop them. They just kept coming. Yeah. Jarrett looked like he's about 20, 21 years old. Like, he just transitioned out of being a referee, across to that, right? So this is one of the first things I've watched, and like I've watched all this stuff and just I've stolen so many gimmicks and angles and ideas and the way stuff's delivered out of that tape because it's amazing.
Yeah.
And it still works to this day because it all works on that emotion and that getting the interaction, the hooking of the crowd. So it's perfect. So fast forward 5 years ago, for my work, I was actually working in India, in Mumbai. And I'd been there for 8 weeks and I was coming home and I was at the airport. And I'm sitting there probably 8, 9 o'clock at night, just going, yep, this is a long day and I've got a flight ahead of me. Airports, love them, great. I actually do enjoy airports and flying, I shouldn't say that. But so I'm sitting there going, yep, okay, all right, no worries, get my head around, go back to normal life and stuff. And I hear this voice from somewhere, and I'm like, what the hell? Jeez, that sounds like Jeff Jarrett. Like, you know the voice, right? I'm like, turn around, and Jarrett was there talking to 2 young Indian guys. He was over there doing the ring car stuff. He was doing whatever. I can never get the name right. And he just finished filming that, so he's sitting in Mumbai airport, and I'm like, "You're fucking kidding me, right? This is bullshit. Like this doesn't happen." So, thought, and I'm really deliberate, and I'm really quite aware of it. I never want to be a fanboy, so I don't hassle wrestlers. If I see them there, I'm more than happy to give them their time and space because if I don't do it, there's a million other people who are going to annoy them and hassle them. So I let it go. The thing is, in Mumbai though, there's probably no one else that's going to actually know. So he's talking to these 2 young guys, and they'd obviously work the show for him, and I say nothing. But and I thought, no, okay, it's time to go. And I got up to walk off to go toward my gate, and as I did, I thought, oh, am I going to talk to him? I'm like, no, give me space, you know. And at that moment, he finished talking to these guys. He got up and started walking the same way as me, and I went.
It's that serendipity.
I'm like, okay, I have to. Like, I'm stupid if I don't. Like, even if he tells me to go fuck myself and leave me alone, whatever. Then Jeff Jarrett's told me to fuck myself.
Yeah, exactly.
And I'm walking along. I said, look, Jeff, how you going, brother? And he's looked at me and he's gone, okay, this guy clearly knows who I am, with an Australian voice in Mumbai. What the fuck? Like, I see this look on his face, like, what the fuck is going on? I'm like, Jeff, I didn't want to interrupt, blah blah blah. And I said, look, I'm a huge wrestling fan. Obviously, I live in Australia, blah blah blah. He said, oh, cool. I said, look, do you mind if I, just have a chat? And he said, oh, for sure, let's have a chat. And I said, look, I got to tell you this story. And I told him about, I used to tape trade, I had this USWA 89 tape, and I told him about this match. And his face lights up and goes, oh man, I remember that match. And the Moondogs. I'm like, this is fucking amazing. I'm standing in Mumbai airport, out of nowhere, talking to Jeff Jarrett about this
one of
tape.
your favourite matches ever.
Yeah, that I had grown up watching from 1989. He's like just beaming with this guy from out of nowhere, Australia, who had got this tape somehow, and it was just the most amazing moment. I got a photo with him. He was really, really nice about it. And I thought, well, I'll let you go and won't hassle you too much. I said, look, I live in Australia. Actually, I wrestle in Australia as well. This is our promotion, blah blah blah. If you're ever down that way, please look us up. Blah blah blah. So, obviously, self promotion.
Of course, you got it.
Absolutely, throw it in there. Probably would push it even more now than I used to, but that's okay. But yeah, it was an amazing concept. So, those moments are just unbelievable, and it's. I didn't necessarily take or steal anything from Jeff, but I always admired his work in WWE, especially, toward the end when he used to, just the character stuff when he was working with China and stuff like that was awesome.
I was a fan of the WCW Slapnuts heel.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, exactly. So, I know we started talking about influences, and so many of them, and probably full circle come back is, that we were talking off camera beforehand about Scott Hall, and again, just there's so much about Scott Hall that I absolutely love. The way he goes about what he's done and how he's done it and the way he moves, the way he thinks, so much of that is amazing. As I said, probably around that sort of mark, probably that early 90s, mid 90s is probably where my influences stop. Mm-hmm. And from there it's then probably admiring other people's work, which is probably quite arrogant in some sense because I hadn't even started wrestling at that point. So now since actually wrestling in that, I appreciate a lot of people's work,
I bet, yeah.
But I don't necessarily take from their work. In saying that, I look back and probably look at a lot of the guys who I have mentally been storing up and stealing all this stuff over the years, and realise, that's exactly sort of what I want to do, how I want to do it. And I think, I've been doing this for 14 odd years. It's taken a long time to get to this point, but I think, I'm pretty well rounded in what I do, how I do, and it is exactly I guess the amalgamation of all that stuff of captured and stolen and moulded up to this point as well. So, yeah, your influences are huge, and you know, I hope in some small way, I guess now when the unfortunate thing and the old saying, you know, I'm closer to the end than I am the beginning. They get to work with a lot of the younger guys. Hopefully, some of that, you know, passes on to them. That rubs off to them. Hopefully, I can influence them. You know, good, bad, or otherwise. They can take some stuff with that they will go, okay, remember that time, or this is what he did, or I want what I do to look as good as he did, that sort of thing. So there's a whole lot of that stuff, I guess, as well. So I guess now it's more about I would love to be an influence, I guess, for someone else. So that I guess that metamorphosis of that.
So the next step.
And that's probably where I was getting to, because it struck me a month or two ago, a couple of months ago. I was talking to someone about something, and I started thinking about when I started, you know, and we didn't have the avenue that's there now, and that avenue is amazing. I love it. You know, when I first started, guys before me, and they were there before me, so your Jags, your Havocs, your Rocky Moneros, that sort of thing. Damien Slater started just before me. You know, there were some guys who have been there for a long time, you know, and guys that aren't necessarily as well. And Johnny was there, obviously, didn't read. Cannibal Chris Taylor, Jason Cooper was there, Tony Stone, a whole heap of these guys. And you know, I owe a lot to them for them bringing me into the fold and showing me and teaching me and allowing me to understand. So what's it going to take, your question was, to move it there? You know, it's going to take more talent like Damien Slater, like the Mikeys and Shanes and the girls to go over there. That's happening. It's going to take, you know, the WWE are having tryouts here more regularly. They're looking at our talent, so it is starting. What I hope doesn't happen in that sense, though, is we're clearly going to be a breeding ground. We run a risk of is if the guys get to the 19, 20, 21 and get taken away too early, we're not going to get to benefit from that here in Australia. So we're still going to stay at this lower level breeding grounds. We need some of that talent to stay to build that. The downside to that is, and I think unless WWE was going to be really generous, which from a business perspective, why would they? Unless they're really going to subsidise that to build an Australian scene, we're always going to be an indie scene. We're always going to be like that, and we're always going to be a breeding ground for talent to go. Which makes sense. We don't have the population. Logistically, we're a huge country with not enough people and not enough places, etc. So that's always going to be tough. Like, are we ever going to get a televised national scene? That'd be amazing. Maybe. Not for a while, not for a long time, which is disappointing. But you know, if between now and then we're gonna spend a lot of time saying, I knew that guy when he was so and so, and how good is he going, and that's awesome.
It's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you very much.
You're more than welcome.
I'll see you next time. And thank you all at home. I've been Adam Gerard. He's been Tyler Daniels. We'll see you next time.